I got a personal tour of the state capitol with Dr. Wayne Moore. He's the former Assistant State Archivist for the state of Tennessee. He's devoted his career to learning all there is to know about the state's history. Here's what I learned on this tour of this monumental building.
This is the oldest working state house of all 50 states in America. When this building was built, everyone in state government was located here, and all the functions of state government were housed here. And that included the state armory. They had ordnance, they had rifles, they had small cannon pieces down in the basement.
Nashville wasn't always home to the state capitol. Previously, it had been moved around from Knoxville to Murfreesboro, even Kingston. But Nashville eventually became its final destination.
It was here in Nashville in the 1830s, and they wanted it to stay here. So the mayor and the municipal leaders of Nashville bought this property as the highest point in Nashville. Perfect site for a grand state capitol.
And it came at a price unheard of in Nashville real estate today.
They bought it for $30,000 and gave it to the state free, $1, I think, to build the capitol here.
Selected to take on the task, William Strickland, an architect from Philadelphia who apprenticed under the masterminds that built the U.S. Capitol. Dr. Moore says its Greek-inspired shape came from the time when many government leaders saw Greece as the home of democracy. And what better place to highlight democracy than in Tennessee? So
it's a very vibrant, active democracy, and Tennesseans are kind of in the forefront of that. This state was much more important in 1840s and 50s even than it is today, and it was a home of Andrew Jackson, a lot of national leaders.
The stone that gives the capitol its gravitas came from a quarry in Nashville's own backyard.
There was a quarry that belonged to a man named Samuel Watkins. Watkins College is still around here in Nashville, and he, for a few $1,000s, allowed the state to quarry from that site, and they built the first paved road in Nashville to haul it up here to the hill to start building up this Capitol building.
Constructing the stone took some major expertise on Strickland's part.
The tower alone in back of me weighs 4,000 tons, solid stone, and rises 80 feet above even the roof. So what he did was he sank these 4 piers that you see. These corners right here are solid 18-foot stone piers that go all the way down to bedrock, and they go straight up. They form an arch.
Speaking of construction, check out these major chandeliers, originally fueled by gas and containing up to 48 burners. You'll still see them now, but today they run on electricity.
Strickland had to do it right, or this building wouldn't be here today. This building will be here 200 years from now. It's a very, very solid, permanent structure.
Unfortunately, the labor to build the Capitol came at a great price.
Some of the anonymous people who actually built this thing, they used a lot of convicts from the prison, which was right down Charlotte, across from Watkins' property. They used a lot of enslaved individuals that did the quarrying, that leveled this hill off before they started building on it, that did a lot of the stonework. There were took a lot of hands to build this building. Not all of it was, getting paid for it.
Another dark cloud over the Capitol's history, Strickland would die in the process of creating his masterpiece.
Strickland, his health starts to deteriorate in 1854, and he must have known it was coming, because in the appropriation for this building from the legislature in that year, they put money in there for a tomb for him, for the architects. He dies in April of '54, and he's buried on the porch just outside that window.
Strickland's not the only person whose tomb is housed within the Capitol walls. It's also a final resting place for Samuel Morgan, the chairman of the Building Commission. President James K. Polk and his wife are also buried on Capitol grounds. Speaking of Capitol grounds, once the Capitol building was complete, finishing the landscaping surrounding the building had to be put on hold, an interruption caused by the Civil War.
The war breaks out in April of '61, and Nashville falls to the Federal Army in February of '62. This becomes basically a fort. The Union Army fortifies the hill, they build a palisade around it, they put cannons up here. They expected Confederate Army to attack Nashville, to try to retake it at some point.
Some of the war's remnants still remain at the Capitol.
You've got Union troops quartered here. There's graffiti up in the tower still from Union soldiers with a lot of time on their hands, just scribbling.
As Tennessee rings in its 225th year, the state will forever be indebted to the love and labor put into creating the state capitol, a structure sturdy enough to house the men and women who lead the state for 225 more. Something else to point out is many of the neighborhoods surrounding the state capitol had to be bulldozed down in order to make room for other state buildings. Many of those residents were also forced to relocate. Reporting from the state capitol, I'm Nikki McGee, News 2.